Milan in September, the city alive with anticipation. The energy of Fashion Week is electric, yet within this charged atmosphere, one event rises above the rest. The Prada Spring Summer 2026 women's wear show, titled Body of Composition, unfolds in a vast warehouse space transformed into something elemental. The floor is painted in a bold shade of tangerine, glowing under white industrial lights. Guests step into an environment stripped of ornament, a deliberate void where nothing distracts from the clothes themselves. Here, every seat, every shadow, every echo of the room is part of the stage. The show begins with quiet intensity. The first model emerges, wearing a cropped military shirt paired with crisply pleated trousers. The look is severe, utilitarian, almost uniform-like. But then a glimmer disrupts the discipline. Gloves that stretch past the elbow, sequined in unexpected shimmer, paired with glittering kitten heels. Prada and Raf Simons are reminding us that the relationship between strictness and indulgence, between order and play, is not only central to fashion, but central to human identity. Each look builds upon this tension. Tailoring appears as a foundation, jackets cut with architectural precision, coats in neutral grays and blacks. Yet alongside this rigor, a softness emerges. Voluminous skirts in satin and organza balloon into dramatic forms. Lace panels expose vulnerability beneath structure. Bloomers peek out under tunics, recalling historic undergarments but reimagined in a contemporary register. Dresses are adorned with jeweled collars that catch the light as the models walk. This is Prada at its most paradoxical, tough and delicate, rigid and fluid, intimate and public. The palette is alive with contrasts. Neutrals dominate the foundations, gray, khaki, beige, black, yet sudden bursts of color slice through like exclamations. A blaze of vivid yellow, a flood of glossy red, an unexpected harmony of purple and orange. These colors, framed by the glowing orange runway, are not only decorative, but symbolic. They signal a refusal to conform to minimal restraint, instead embracing the expressive and the audacious. Color here becomes voice, rebellion, an assertion of individuality within collective codes. Fabric tells its own story. Chiffon and lace flutter like whispers of fragility. Satin drapes with liquid sensuality. Tulle floats, creating volume that seems to defy gravity. Leather is cut not into heavy coats of armor, but softened into pastel outerwear, reshaping what toughness can mean. Workwear shirting is spliced with lingerie fabrics, an interplay of public presentation and private desire. Even the cuts themselves resist stability. Hems left raw, collars enlarged, sleeves elongated until proportions seem strange, disruptive, even surreal. Prada and Simons ask us to question the rules of fit, the rules of proportion, the rules of what feels finished. Accessories punctuate these explorations with intent. Structured leather bags appear in bold tones, both functional and sculptural. Crystal earrings dangle with playful excess, contrasting sharply with the severity of the clothing. Silk pouches are held delicately, while handbags resembling dust bags are elevated into luxury objects. On feet, pumps drip with rhinestones, echoing both glamour and decay. Long opera gloves are styled unexpectedly, not as traditional evening wear, but as disruptive additions to daytime looks. Accessories are not add-ons. They are integral pieces of the collection's vocabulary. As look after look passes, a rhythm emerges. The show begins with restraint, uniforms, sharp tailoring, muted tones. Gradually, color enters, volume expands, ornament grows louder. The strict silhouette gives way to the playful, the disciplined walk to a flirtation with flamboyance. But just as exuberance threatens to overtake the collection, order returns. A series of tailored jackets, coats, and structured dresses bring us back to a center. Yet after this journey, those same jackets no longer read as simply functional. They carry the memory of sparkle, of bloomers, of organza, of defiance. Prada reframes the familiar, teaching us that nothing is ever static once it has been challenged. The intellectual underpinning of body of composition lies in its acknowledgement of uncertainty. Miuccia Prada spoke of clothing that shifts, changes, adapts. fashion that can respond to the world as it is, unpredictable and in flux. This collection does not present a single narrative, but a multitude. It allows the body to compose itself. A skirt can be tied, layered, worn as armor or as ornament. A collar can declare authority or vulnerability. A glove can be protection, performance, or provocation. Fashion here is not instruction, it is possibility. Critical response to the show echoes this sentiment. Editors describe it as less about trends and more about ideology. Details like the beaded collar, recalling Prada's early 2000s codes, resonate as a deliberate act of revival. Frankenstein skirts, patched from multiple references, resist the polished perfection of standard luxury, offering instead an embrace of intentional chaos. These gestures remind us that Prada is not merely designing garments, but proposing philosophies, ways of thinking about how clothes live on the body, how they function in society, how they articulate identity. The runway itself becomes a mirror of modern life, fragmented, layered, contradictory, but also inventive and free. The militaristic is softened by the playful. The glamorous is grounded by the functional. The romantic is disrupted by the severe. This is not confusion, but composition, a deliberate act of bringing disparate elements into dialogue. Just as a piece of music gains richness from harmony and dissonance alike, so too does this collection gain strength from contradiction. In this way, body of composition feels not just relevant to fashion, but to culture at large. It speaks to how we live now, negotiating between discipline and spontaneity, between tradition and reinvention, between structure and fluidity. Prada proposes that our identities, like our clothes, are never finished. We are constantly recomposing, restyling, redefining ourselves in response to an ever-changing world. As the final models stride across the orange runway, the audience watches intently. Some lean forward, some take notes, some simply let the spectacle wash over them. When Miuccia Prada and Raf Simons step out for their bow, applause fills the space. But what lingers is not applause, nor even the memory of a single look. What lingers is possibility, the possibility that fashion can be more than decoration, more than commerce, more than fleeting trends. That fashion can be an instrument of thought, a tool of identity, a body of composition. And so, as guests file out into the Milanese night, one idea remains. Clothing is not finished when it leaves the runway. It is unfinished until it is worn, lived in, adapted, transformed by the individual. Prada's Spring-Summer 2026 collection reminds us that fashion is not static, but alive. Alive in movement, alive in contrast, alive in contradiction, alive in the act of becoming. It asks us to see ourselves not as passive wearers, but as active composers, shaping meaning with every choice of fabric, every cut, every layer. This was not merely a show, it was a manifesto. Prada's manifesto for a world in flux, a world where clothing is not answer, but question, not statement, but dialogue, not solution, but composition. And in its composition lies freedom.